pack your bags, grab your keys, let's go on a road trip.
You know what that means, buddy?
Yeah, I know what that means, buddy. Road trip, baby!
Hello everybody, if you couldn't tell by the intro, today I'm talking about some amazing road trip books. It's amazing. Road trips are fun. I honestly don't love them a ton. I love them more if I'm in the passenger seat driving. I'm just not the biggest fan of driving. I don't know what it is. My husband, however, can go on road trips all day, every day. He loves driving, so I guess, you know, marry your opposite when it comes to that regard. I don't know. But either way, today we're talking about some amazing books that feature road trips in them. So I have about 7 or 8 of them that I wanted to share with you, and let's get into it. First up, I'm going to talk about some YA books because I have read a lot of really good road trip books when it comes to the YA genre. First up, of course, Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Morgan Matson, the first ever road trip book I read, and still one of my favorites. I love this book. It follows Amy and Roger. If you wouldn't have guessed it, they have to basically go on a road trip together. Her and her mom are moving cross country. They have to move a vehicle, but Amy's afraid to get behind the wheel, so enter Roger, an old family friend, and so they go through this road trip. And that's what the whole book is about, and it's about their road trip. Who would have thought it? But either way, what's great about this particular book is that the author, Morgan Matson, went on this road trip herself, and she actually took several pictures on the road trip that she includes in the book, as I say, as I try to find them. Here we go. So she includes them in the book. She also includes like different notes. She'll include different playlists, which I love as a big music fan. And she has some great ones like Passion Pit, The National, Siobhan Stevens, Newfound Glory, like so good. And I just love it. She puts a lot of like great mixed media in it, which makes you feel like kind of you're on the road trip together with them. And it's just a fun one. It's romantic. It's cute. My favorite like YA road trip book, hands down. We have another one. Obviously, The Geography of Lost Things by Jessica Brody. This is another kind of one where they have to move a vehicle, so they have to take this road trip together. It's about a character named Allie who her estranged father passes away and leaves her his 1968 Firebird, which, I mean, I would do a road trip in that for sure. She knows she won't keep it, so basically she doesn't know how to drive a stick shift, but her ex-boyfriend does, so they kind of go on this road trip together. And it says the road trip gets off to a horrible start filled with unexpected detours, roadblocks, and all the uncomfortable tension that comes with being trapped in a car with your ex. And it's just a fun one. Like, road trip books are so fun to read because you get to go see what sights they see. You get to read about what sights they see, about the people they meet along the way, and this is a good one. I really say it's also about a good familial relationship because it's about Allie's father who dies, who she never had a good relationship with her, and he leaves her this really great car that she wants to sell, but by the end of the book you're thinking, will she sell it? It's a fun one, would recommend. Then we have Love and Luck by Jenna Evans Welch. This one is a cross-country trip through Ireland, which is very fun. And so we have a character named Addie who is visiting Ireland, and she has to go to her aunt's destination wedding, and she finds this guidebook, Ireland for the Heartbroken, because she recently has a broken heart. She decides to go on a tour of the Emerald Isle, trapped in the smallest vehicle with her brother Ian and the world's smallest and his cute Irish accented friend Rowan. And so basically it says, Addie hopes the guidebook will not heal her broken heart, but also her shattered relationship with her brother. That is, if they don't get lost along the way. So if you want a book that's a road trip that's not in this country, I definitely checked this one out. It was fun. It wasn't one of my favorites, but I still really enjoyed the sights and scenery, even though I wasn't there, of Ireland and Emerald Isle. It was great for that regard. I enjoyed it. Moving on to some adult books, I have a fair few. First up is a thriller, and that is He Started by Samantha Downing. This is my favorite road trip thriller book. I haven't read many of them, so, you know, take that with a grain of salt, but I enjoyed this one. So please forgive me as I don't have the physical copy, so I forgot the characters' names, but basically we follow one character, and she has to go on a road trip with her brother and sister because their grandfather passed away, and in his will it states that they have to recreate this road trip that they did when they were all younger in order to get all of their like inheritance money, if you will. And that trip was really bad for them in a lot of reasons. They don't ever talk about it. It's kind of hush hush, but they're like, you know, we got to get together because they all have an estranged relationship to do this trip again so we can get our money and peace out. And so of course they go on this trip, things happen, murders happen, you get the gist. The final plot in this book, chef's kiss, never saw coming, loved it. definitely a great road trip thriller book if you're looking for one. Another great one that's kind of road trippy, kind not. Is that a word? I don't know. Survive the Night by Riley Sager. This is one that takes place during one night, which I usually do not drive well with books like that and taking place in one day. I'm not that good about. So, there it is. But this follows a character named Charlie, who it's the year 1991, and she is trying to go home for like fall break. And a lot of things have happened. Her roommate was killed because there's like this kind of notorious serial killer that's around her campus. And she's like, you know what? I'm going to go home. So she finds a ride on like the board where you pin that you have rides. The guy that picks her up named Charlie can only leave in the middle of the night. And you're thinking red flags immediately, but she's like, no red flags. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? And so they go on this road trip together, not really road trip, just to ride home. And it's a long ride. So I guess it's technically a road trip. And, things start happening. Charlie starts wondering if this guy Josh, did I say his name was Josh? I may have said Charlie twice, is maybe the serial killer that killed her roommate after all. Like, is she in the car with the killer? And she's a very unreliable narrator. Like, she has dream sequences that you're like, is this real? Is this not real? But either way, it was a freaking thrilling time. I definitely was gripped. I was like, what is going to happen in this, like, during these bleak hours before dawn? I really enjoyed it. So again, if you're looking for two really good road trip thrillers, I'd recommend both of them. Next up, we have, coincidentally called, The Road Trip by Beth OLeary. This is one that's not my favorite Beth OLeary book, but I still enjoyed it. This is about characters, Dylan and Addie, that 4 years ago they fell in love, but now they're broken up. But now there is a wedding that both of their friends are going to. And basically, they crash their cars together at the start of the journey. Like, who would have thunk it? And then they all have to ride together to get to this wedding. And it is a fun book. It is like the book of Murphy's Law. Kind of all road trip books are, I feel, in a way, because if, like Murphy's Law, if something can go wrong, it will go wrong. I've been on a road trip. That's happened. It sucks. But either way, this is one you can guess it's a second chance romance. It's got a lot of romantic elements into it. It's got a lot of hijinks, things that happen. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Now this one's going to be a little different because it's seasonal. And it is not the time to read this, but I'm still going to talk about it because we're talking about road trip books. And I'm talking about A Cross-Country Christmas by Courtney Walsh. This is one I read last year and I loved it. It was just so wholesome and so cute. And it was a great book to read during the season, and especially if you like road trips. And this video is all about road trip books, so we're going to talk about it. This book follows Lauren and Will. Lauren has kind of had a crush on Will for a long time. They both kind of have to go home because Lauren's brother is about to have a baby with his wife, and Will is her brother's best friend, and so they decide to take the road trip together. And of course things happen. Maybe her feelings from the past start emerging again. He starts revealing more of himself, and it's just so freaking cute. I loved it. This one's not more emphasis on the road trip, I'd say. It's more about the emphasis on the relationship and the rekindling of it, or I guess you could say they never rekindled, but the old feelings come back hard, that kind of thing. But again, if you're looking for a good Christmas read, I highly recommend it. If you're also looking for a great road trip read, I'd also highly recommend it. Next up is 1,000 Miles, and this is, I forget who this is. Oh, 1,000 Miles by Bridget Morrissey. This is one that's not my favorite. Every time I say this title, I think of Vanessa Carlton. I mean, how could you not? But this one is about Dee and Ben, and they used to be best friends many, many years ago. If you can sense a trend with road trip books, it's usually about like a past relationship, and they have to be stuck together in a car. And of course, if you're stuck together in a car for a long amount of times, you gotta hash some stuff out. So a road trip's the perfect place to do it because you're in a car. Where are you gonna go? I guess you could listen to the radio or your headphones the whole time, but where's the fun in that? But either way, Dee and Ben, they used to be best friends, everything's great, and then, they haven't talked for a long time, and then Ben shows up at Dee's doorstep, and he's like, hey, my grandmother passed away, and we also have a time capsule that we have to dig up. We said 10 years ago that we were gonna dig this up on this date, and we're gonna do it. And she's like, crap, you know what, let's just do it. And so they go on a road trip to his grandmother's house to like kind of go in. Obviously this talks about past feelings and things like that, and it wasn't one of my favorites, but it does have a good road trip quality to it because it's literally about a road trip. Words. Last book I have is one that's kind of unconventional, but that is 80 Days to Elsewhere by Casey Dyer. I read this a few years ago, and it's such a fun book. It's not about romance. It's just literally about not a road trip, but a trip. Just bear with me here. So we have a character named Ramona, and she is desperately trying to find a job. And so she finds this job that, how do I explain it? They hire people to kind of relive and like write a guidebook on how to do like an actual book. What am I trying to say here? Anyway, her job is she has to kind of recreate Around the World in 80 Days. That's a classic novel, and that's the whole company. So like they'll hire people to kind of do that, and they'll like write a guidebook for this other person that wants to actually recreate who actually wants to do the Around the World in 80 Days. And so Ramona gets a job to recreate it. Or the only rule is she can't use like planes or any sort of mass transit, because back in the day they didn't have that. So this girl does a lot. She goes like on a charter boat. She goes through like ferries. She has to go through trains. Like she also has competition for this other guy that's like, whoever gets there first is going to get the job. And she's like, no, I'm not going to freaking go around the world in 80 days not to get this damn job. So props to her. But it was fun. Is it necessarily a road trip? No, but it's a fun book that's all about kind of taking a trip around the world in 80 days. Like, I don't know what other books they kind of redid. I don't know. But either way, it's an interesting job, am I right? And it was very fun. I just remember reading it. I was such a good time. I had a smile on my entire face because it was just so interesting how she had this job to recreate this classic, and like somebody that actually wanted to kind of relive that. It was just a very fun thing. So I really enjoyed it. Is it technically a road trip book? No, but it was a fun time. So that's why I'm going to talk about it. So there you have some amazing books that have road trips in them. Whether you just want to read about road trips or whether you want to go on a road trip, these books are great for you to check out. If you have any favorite road trip books, please leave them down below. I would love to know, because I know I have not read anywhere near the amount that's probably out there. Like I've probably read this much, and there's like so many out there. You get what I'm saying. But either way, thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.